Howdy folks. So in this video, we're going to be taking a look at the Anker SOLIX C1000 portable power station. So Anker SOLIX reached out to me to see if I would be interested in reviewing this portable power station. And I've purchased charging cables, little charge bricks, and little battery packs from Anker in the past. And I know that, they're really good quality products. And I was interested to see if the same quality standards applied to their portable power station. So out of the box, you get the power station. You've got 3 cables. You've got, I believe it's a 4-foot AC charge cable. You've got a 10-foot cigarette lighter to XT60 to recharge from a car. And then I believe this was 5.5 foot. This is XT60 to XT60 for the solar panels. It's actually a Y cable, which lets you parallel multiple Anker solar panels together to get that 600 watt input. And then there's also a 5-year warranty on this unit. You've got your warranty card in multiple languages, and then you've got a safety sheet again in multiple languages, and then the user guide. They actually don't put a paper user guide in with this power station. They give you a QR code. And at first I was like, I kind of like to have the paper in front of me, because especially when you got something new, you're constantly referring back to the manual to see what are the specs, how do you do this? But then I thought, okay, from a developer or engineer standpoint, it's actually really smart to just give the QR code, because then anytime somebody looks up the manual, they're always going to have the latest copy. But one thing that I was really hoping to see that I was hoping that this QR code would actually be somewhere on this unit. And it's not, because that means that I have to keep this just for the QR code somewhere near the power station so that I can always go back and pull up that manual. So to open up the manual, I believe on most modern phones, you can open up your camera app on your phone or tablet and hover over the QR code, and it will give you the ability to open that QR code in your browser. It gives you the basics of what you need to know. A few things to note: your basic charging can be up to 1,000 watts AC, but you can also enable fast charging and charge at 1,300 watts. Recharging from solar up to 600 watts. They have this SurgePad ability, which the last AC outlet on the right-hand side of the power station gives you the ability to surge up to 2,400 watts. So that's a pretty big surge for a 1,000 watt power station. But then we get down here to the specifications. And so the cells in this power station are lithium iron phosphate, 1,056 watt hours. I believe they rate at 3,000 charge and discharge cycles. So if you charge and discharge once a day, you'll have, 10 years till it gets down to 80% capacity. AC input voltage, 120 volts at 12 amps. And then we stated the 1,000 watt input charging. This has a bypass mode. So when your power station is at 100% state of charge, it can bypass AC power directly to the load up to 1,440 watts max. And then the 1,300 watt ultra fast recharging. Solar panel specs, 11 to 32 volts, 10 amps, or 32 volts to 60 volts at 12.5 amps. Again, 600 watt maximum. You got your car charging, your AC input. You've got 2 different styles of USB. You've got USB-A and the USB-C. The USB-Cs, there's 2 separate ports, a 100 watt port and a 30 watt port. This does have a UPS feature, so where if power is lost, it has a 20 millisecond transfer time. And then you've got your recommended discharging and charging temperatures, as well as the size and the net weight of the power station. And the same specs are listed on the bottom of the power station, along with the contact information for support. And I did check this QR code right here to see if that took you to the manual. That's just a QR code for the serial number, I believe. This thing comes in at a weight of, I believe it's a little over 28 pounds. And then dimension-wise, you're looking at, what, handle to handle, about 15 inches, up to the top, 10.5, and then depth, about 8 inches. Not a huge power station at all. So taking a look at the power station itself, working our way from the top down, we've got our light across the top, which honestly, when I saw this at first, I thought it was going to be very annoying, thinking that this was going to be too bright, especially when looking at the front of the power station. But it's more of an ambient light. I mean, even when you have it on high, it's not super bright, but it's got a good diffuser along the top here. And it really helps to dissipate the light. It's not as much of a spotlight as some of these other power stations that have lights are. We've got our cigarette lighter right over here with our power button for that. And when you turn that on, you can see we've got a little icon that shows up right there. These USB ports are always powered, which I thought is really nice. Obviously, this is your power button to turn the unit on and off, as well as the display on and off. This button here we'll get to in a minute, but this is for the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth transmitting. You've got a reset if you need to reset the entire power station. And you've got your AC outlets along the bottom and a power button for that. When you press that button, after, I believe, 2 seconds, you hear a click for the relay clicking in, and then it is set to 60 hertz right now, and you see that display right up top. Coming over to the right side of the unit, we've got the port for the expansion battery, which plugs in here, which doubles your capacity from 1,056 watt hours to a little over 2,100 watt hours. Normally, I wouldn't even bother with this sticker on the back, but this part right here really helped me, because when I pulled this out of the box the first time, I tried to turn it on and it wouldn't turn on. I was trying to figure out what in the world's going on. Did I get a dead power station? And so I'm looking all over, I'm pressing all the buttons on the front, and I look on the back, and it says right here, recharge your power station to activate it before using it for the first time. So I grabbed the power cord, plugged it in, and as soon as I plugged it in, then all of a sudden, the display came active and it started charging. On the left-hand side, you see we've got our input ports here. We've got our AC. We've got a circuit breaker for the AC side, and then our XT60 for both the DC car accessory charging and our PV solar panel charging as well. So in regards to this button here on the front is like the remote connectivity button. So when it is lit up and when you see the icon on here, it is broadcasting, whether that's Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. So I have tested both Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. The Bluetooth, I was extremely surprised. I went across to the other side of the house, and so I'm like 20, 30 feet away through brick and through drywall, and I can still connect to the Bluetooth transmitting from this device. So it really reaches a whole lot farther than some of these other devices that have Bluetooth range, where the Bluetooth is like, 5, 10 feet. And then I also connected it to Wi-Fi, and that gives you the ability to manage this unit from any place that you have an internet connected device. So we can see here's our SOLIX C1000. We're at 100%. You see the little Wi-Fi icon signifying that it's on Wi-Fi. Tap that icon and we can see here we've got 100% state of charge, a 66-degree temperature on the inside. You're looking at here, nothing is connected. But if I tap either the car port in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a power button, or the same thing with the AC input, we can turn the car port and the AC input on and off. So let's tap the car port and see what happens. The display turned on. We can see we've got the light that turned on here and our little icon. Let's do the AC output. We've got our light right here, indicator here, and there was also the click. Let's actually plug in my phone. We should see which specific USB output is being used. So we can see right there, it says 0 watts. Something is plugged in. It knows something is plugged in. It's just not being used yet. And if I plug it into my phone, and now we've got 2 watts. We see the output. The remaining power across the top is starting to count down. We'll throw an AC load on, and we see we've actually got a graph of the output of the AC power. And with both the carport and the AC output, you can tap this little clock icon and you can actually time when you want these to actually turn off, which I thought was a really cool feature, because if you know that you need to turn something off, you know, save, conserve power or something, you can program that all from this app. We've got a brightness control for our ambient light, so we can set that to low, medium, or high straight from the app. And the very bottom option, we can turn the screen on and off. In the top right hand corner, we've got a bunch of different settings. Here's where I was talking about you can control what you want your AC recharging to be. The unit timeout. So if this unit is idle, it is going to turn itself off completely after whatever you set this time to be. It's by default set to 12 hours. You've got an SOS mode. You have a brightness for your display. How often do you want your screen to time out? You can name it, set your Wi-Fi. You can also upgrade firmware. So that's nice. So if there's little bugs or something, you'll be able to upgrade your firmware of this device, and then you can restore it to defaults. And then last thing I want to show you, if you're one of those people that likes to get notifications on different things, you can get push notifications from your power station. So you can see a few examples right here. Your battery is fully recharged. Remaining power is lower than 1%. I want to say there's some of them in here that are like, yep, here we go. Lower than 10%. So it warns you that you're running out of power, and then it lets you know, hey, your power station's back up to full power again. I did a capacity test on this. So I discharged it all the way down to 0. And after doing all the capacity, I want to say it was 920 watt hours from the AC side, which ends up being 87% efficient with a 1056 watt hour capacity. So this power station is supposed to have a HyperFlash fast recharge, which you can enable in their mobile app, and it's supposed to recharge from 0 to 100% in around 58 minutes. So we're going to open up the Anker app. We are going to plug in this power station to recharge. Current time is 11:04, so we can see we're starting to charge in the app and on the display. And I'm going to tap this hypercharge. This function can only be turned on when charging. So now this should increase the charging significantly. A normal charge on this, you're only configurable up to what looks like 1,000 watts. And so we're charging at 1,200 watts right now. So we will be back just after 11 o'clock and see if everything is all charged up. And I just got the notice. The fans are ramping down and we're at 100%. And it is 11:05. So the C1000 claims to have a 20 millisecond transfer time, which means that if you're connected to input power, in the event that you lose that input power, your devices should not notice the switch between input power to battery power on the power station. So this is good for computers, internet equipment, CPAP machines. They should not notice any blip or issue when switching. So I've got my laptop up here plugged into the power station. I have removed the battery so that it is only relying on the power coming from the power station. You see these two USB ports. I have plugged in my lighting for this workbench. So if anything does happen, we should see the screen go out or the lights blip. Currently our battery's at 100% and we're drawing 30 watts. So let's see what happens. We'll pull the power cord in 3, 2, 1. And I didn't notice any difference at all. I didn't see any light flicker. Nothing happened on the screen. Nice to know that you can have reliable power. You can have a UPS to where you're not going to lose any power at all if your input power does go out and you have some kind of a device that requires that power to remain up and remain stable. One thing that I was interested in looking at with this power station, it was actually a problem that I detected in the last one that I tested. What is the voltage on these AC outlets when you're at a low state of charge? I grabbed the kilowatt meter, put it in the power station, and looked at it, and it's 120 volts. So I was ecstatic to see that this has voltage regulation so that even at that low state of charge, you have that consistent 120 volt output. I mentioned that this does have up to 600 watts of solar input. Unfortunately, I don't have either the Anker solar panels or any solar panels that have the XT60 connector on the ends, so I was not able to test charging this power station from solar to make sure that it can get up to 600 watts of input. I wanted to talk about a handful of different tests that I have run with this. I've had this for several weeks now, and I've kind of gone through and run a battery of different tests. I tried to basically run any 120 volt device in my house to see if this can power it. I know that some of the devices that I've tested, it's not really practical if you're planning on using a power station for it, but it's more along the lines of, can it do it? Can it handle it in the event that you really had to? I tested the washing machine with this thing. I tested running the miter saw and the shop vac at the same time. So two high inductive loads. And then I tried the biggest surge load that I have that's 120 volt, just to see if it would run it, and that's my Shopsmith saw. I did not have any expectation that it would actually be able to do it because of the surge requirement from the motor, and that was the one thing that I have found in my house that it could not start. It tried, it really tried, but it was not able to run it. I've run space heaters. I tried, this was a fun one. I grabbed out the hot plate and I thought, well, you know, I'm gonna make breakfast for dinner for me and my son. Pulling 1400 watts, 350 degrees, you hear that fan going, but it's doing it. I want to test the pass-through on this thing. It's supposed to be able to do 1400 watts of pass-through, I believe. So we're finishing up the pancakes. Pulling in 1435, going out 1350. So it does a decent amount of pass-through, that's for sure. And then one use case that I had for this, and it was honestly, it was something that I had never thought of before. My son had a soccer tournament, and it's an hour and a half away. You got to take whatever food you want, otherwise you're going to pay an arm and a leg for food while you're at the tournament. And it was like, it was, you know, 50 degrees outside. It was probably going to rain. And I thought, well, why not take the power station? We could take our coffee pot with us and have hot coffee during all the games, because it was at least going to be at least 2 games. And then somebody also suggested, well, why not take your Instapot and make your food while you're there? I'm like, that's awesome. We're gonna tailgate this thing. And had several people walk by right behind me and say, man, that was an awesome idea. But I had never thought, you know, you think about it from a camping standpoint and stuff like that, but I'd never thought about, you know, taking it and kind of tailgating. And we're already talking about next year taking the power station and putting it in a wagon, taking it right next to where we're sitting. Maybe take the popcorn machine, sell a few bags of popcorn at the same time. But it's a slick little thing. So there's one final test that I wanted to run, and I thought you guys might be interested in the results as well, because I don't know what it's going to do. So remember, this last port on this power station has their SurgePad ability, which is supposed to allow pulling up to 2400 watts of power. I have a 20 amp 3-way splitter, and I've got 2 vacuum cleaners hooked up. I should have looked to see what the power draw is of each one, but I don't remember. It's probably going to be close to 1200 watts a piece, which is going to put us right around that 2400 watts, assuming I'm correct. So let's plug in one and see what happens. And we're pulling 1202 watts, right around that 1200 mark with that one vacuum cleaner. All right, let's see what happens. This is going to be fun. 2047. You hear those fans screaming now. Something just dropped down. So I just plugged in my battery charger as well. This is pretty slick. So I've got 2 vacuum cleaners plus a battery charger running off of this. And remember, this is normally a 1800 watt inverter. And we're at, still that 1800. I turned them both off because when I turned one off, the pitch changed, which made me wonder if the output voltage is being adjusted above that 1800. So let's find out. So we got our kilowatt meter, 120 volts, 2000 watts right now, 119 volts. Yeah, so that's what I thought. So you see our voltage dropped. So the SurgePad is designed to give you that surge ability up to 2400 watts. But then it's going to, and I didn't actually count the time of how long it surged for, but then what it's going to do is it's going to reduce the voltage to keep you around that 18 to 1900 watt output. But still, giving you the ability to surge up to 2400 watts, that's pretty sweet on such a small power station. Out of all the different tests that I have run on this over the last several weeks, I have been pleasantly surprised. I was very happy to see that this was a lithium iron phosphate, which is a much safer chemistry. Even for a 1000 watt hour power station, you've got 600 watts of solar, which is going to let you recharge in just a couple hours, assuming that you can get that full 600 watts. From an AC standpoint, you can recharge in just under an hour if you have to. And even without having the fast charge, I think it's only an hour and a half. With the expansion battery that you can put with it, you can double your output. So I could see this being a very, very beneficial tool in the event of power outages, in case you're going camping and you need power, tailgating. Throw it in the back of the car, throw it in the back of the truck. So I know for a lot of people, the feature set's great, but it comes down to price. And what does this cost? So the normal price of this unit is $999, but for a limited time, they're running a Black Friday sale, which gives you an additional 25% off the purchase price, which drops it from $999 down to $749. So I have a link down in the description below. From what I've been told, there's also going to be some additional sales on package deals with this power station, and solar panels, maybe even some of the larger power stations will also have sales going on at this time. But I believe that they will be ending after Black Friday. I've been pleasantly surprised by this little power station and all the features that they were able to pack into this. If it's something that would interest you, take a look at the link in the description below. And with that, I'm going to let you all go. So y'all stay safe, stay warm, and we'll catch up with you later.